Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wayne's World of Science and Technology. I gather that a lot of you have been hearing quite a bit about Canada recently, so I thought I'd run over some of the facts about Canada that may help tell you a little bit about us. And, well, let's start with at the top. Canada's the second largest country in the world. It's smaller than Russia, but bigger than everybody else. As a matter of fact, it has twice the land area of the European Union. We have 4 provinces that are larger than Ukraine, the largest country in Europe. This tends to give us a slightly skewed perspective on size, if you understand what I mean. Total, there's 10 provinces, 3 territories, and get this, 630 internal nations, legally recognized internal nations. Canada fits the dictionary definition of empire. Basically, a country made up of a group of individual nations ruled over by a monarch. In this particular case, our monarch, we call him a king, it's Charles III at the current time. Canada also has the world's largest coastline. Canada is one of the few countries, as a matter of fact, it may actually be the only country where the major continuous landmass portion borders on 3 different oceans. The Atlantic, the Arctic, and the Pacific. Canada has the longest international land border shared with the United States, which has been peaceful since 1812. Over 200 years, well, 1814, the War of 1812, over 200 years. Canada also has the 13th lowest population density on the planet. Highly populated places like Greenland come below us. I mean, almost everybody else has got a higher population density than we do. It's just the way we are. We're very thinly spread out, even though we have 41 million people. But big country. So, yeah. Let's see. We have our own private inland sea. Bet you didn't know that. It's called Hudson's Bay. It is approximately 3 times the size of the Black Sea. And yes, it is a salt sea. We also have the 3rd coldest climate behind Greenland and the Svalbard Islands off of Norway. Way up north off of Norway. Russia is actually warmer than Canada, believe it or not. Isn't that a scary thought? That's one of the reasons why when everybody was squawking about how the cold weather was going to shut down the fighting in Ukraine in the first year, my response was, cold weather? What cold weather? This is Ukrainian temperatures. I mean, the temperatures in Ukraine are high compared to what most of Canada gets. And sorry, I just realized I want to turn down that because it's glancing off my glasses. I'm obviously going to have to, and it moved again. Sorry, folks. I'm having a few issues with my equipment. What else is new? Where was I? Oh, yeah. We have the world's 2nd largest lake and the world's 4th largest lake, which we share with the United States, which are Lake Superior, which is famous from the song about the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which most of you probably heard. If you haven't, I suggest you go look it up. And Lake Huron. We also have the world's 8th largest lake in Great Bear Lake. We have the world's largest economy. Get this, we have 0.4% of the world's population, but we manage over 2% of the world's economic output. That's what you call an overachievement. Our population doubled in a time span of 50 years. Yeah, this is mostly due to immigration. Our population went from 20 million people in 1967 to 41 million people today. We actually jumped 5 million in population between 2021 and 2025. Most countries couldn't handle this. And when I say most countries couldn't handle this, there would be massive social issues with bringing that many immigrants in. With Canada, it's another day called day ending in day. Canada is very heavily immigrant focused and always has been. Take myself for an example. My one grandparent was born in Canada. One. The other three grandparents were born in three other countries. So I had grandparents from four countries on three continents, and that is not unusual for a Canadian. Seriously. This makes us tremendously diverse. We don't think like you do. And there's no way we ever will think like you do. We think in a... calling it an international style isn't right because it isn't international. It's something that we have developed ourselves, which is strange and weird and works. That's all I can tell you, really. It's an interesting thing sociologically. Now, let's get to the fun part. People say Canadians are polite. That depends. We live in a very brutal climate. For a good chunk of the year, spending the night outside in just shirt sleeves is either going to put you in the hospital or kill you. One of the two. And if you live in some of the places that I've lived in this country, that's 6 months of the year that being outside in shirt sleeves overnight will kill you. Think about it. We're used to it. It doesn't mean anything to us. For most of the rest of the planet, it's horrifying, but to us, it's like, it's weather. My grandmother was born in northern Argentina, near the equator. She never did get used to Canadian weather. I wonder why. Her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren live for winter. We all played hockey, we all skied, we all snowshoed, snowmobiled, the whole works. We were out there all the time. But, as I said, it's brutal. And this sort of environmental conditions causes sociological adjustments, is the best way to put it. Yes, people are polite in Canada. You know why we're polite? Because it doesn't cost us anything, and that person you're being polite to might help push your car out of a snowbank, for God's sakes. Think about it. Why wouldn't you be polite? It doesn't cost you, and there's huge advantages. But, and here's the but, Canadians fight all the time. We have to fight to survive effectively. Even if you're living in the middle of one of the largest cities, Toronto, the middle of winter is not a comfortable time. And Canadians are tough people. We are damn tough. And the reason we're so damn tough is because we live in such a damn tough environment. This also means that we tend to really, really, really appreciate efficiency. Matter of fact, we appreciate efficiency in a way that the Germans, who are stereotypically the most efficient on the planet, just do not get. Because, I mean, hey, look, if you have a choice between spending an extra hour outside shoveling snow or being inside having a nice warm drink and having a chat with your friends, which would you choose? You'd work like hell to get inside, wouldn't you? And that's the way Canadians are. Canada's the land of friendly people. But it's also the land of hard liquor and casual violence. People used to think in the United States that Canadians were violent savages who shouldn't be allowed in the United States. And that was within my lifetime. The reason they thought this was because we fight at the drop of a puck. Remember Rodney Dangerfield's old line? I went to the fights and a hockey game broke out? Yeah. We fight. In hockey, we fight. In anything else, we fight. Because the only way we know how to do it is to go at it all out. This meant that we tend to be a bit of a, how should I put it? Militarily, we're a discipline problem. In World War I, the top brass did not want the Christmas truce to repeat in 1915. Unfortunately for them, it did. except where there were Canadians. Canadians took a look at what was going on and said, oh, neat. We know where they are now, and threw back grenades. I mean, hey, it's efficient, right? They can't kill you if they're dead. Taking prisoners. No, it's kind of inefficient. Forget the prisoners. We don't need them. Basically, almost everything that people think of in World War I, which gets blamed on damn near everybody else, including the Germans, like use of gas, Canada was a trendsetter. To quote General Curry in a speech he gave, I think it was 1920 or 1919, he said, we would have gassed the entire German army if we could have. That's the sort of attitude you get. You can read about this, actually, if you want to look it up and make sure I'm not lying. Look up Sir Basil Littlehart's History of the Great War. Canadian troops in World War I were the most, how should I put it, proficient at trench raiding. If you go to the Canadian War Museum in Ottawa, you can see a variety of the weapons that our guys made, what you call field expedient modification, where you maybe take a shovel and turn it into a deadly weapon. And that's what they proceeded to do with damn near everything they got their hands on. It was so bad that at one point the Western Command moved Canadian troops, which were totally baffed. I mean, like, they've been through some really hard battles, and let's face it, what they needed was rest and relaxation. So what do? You put them in the front line. Sounds insane, right? Well, it wasn't, because the Germans considered Canadians stormtroopers and bloody colonials. Anytime they saw us going into the front lines, they reinforced. So they reinforced in front of the Canadians, and the attack went in elsewhere. It was a success. Canadians were famous for the depths of their raids. In Ukraine, we're seeing basically nothing moving, and trench raids are effectively very minimal. Canadians were trench raiding every night, and they were managing to penetrate up to a distance of 1.5 miles behind German lines. It's not 1.5 miles from our lines, it's 1.5 miles from their front lines. Think about that. And this went on all war, wherever anybody faced Canadian troops. But we had a reputation among the population as being the friendliest, nicest people around. Again, doesn't hurt us to be friendly to them. As a matter of fact, it's an advantage, because as long as we're friendly to them, they'll be friendly to us, right? Well, that's the way we think. Meanwhile, the guy shooting at us, he ain't friendly. He's going that way. World War II. World War II was somewhat different. They managed to get the Geneva Convention through, and they actually managed to convince most of our troops to follow it. And instead, they ran into other problems. You tell Canadian troops, take that hill. Okay, Canadian troops bugger off, take the hill. You go to the hill, no Canadian troops. There are 2 hills further along. Again, I'll refer you to Sir Basil Littlehart, in this case his book, A History of the Second World War, where he describes the chase across Sicily, where Canadian troops basically were chasing the Germans. Every time the Germans and Italians pulled back and tried to set up a defensive line, they'd find out that the Canadian troops had already managed to get behind them, because we're moving so damn fast. Meanwhile, the general staff was trying to figure out where we were for a good part of the time. Yeah, fun. One thing that most Yanks don't know is exactly how hated they are over some portions of the war in Europe. General Mark Clark, if he'd have met most of my dad's friends, and my dad's friends were mostly ex-military, would have gotten his head beaten in. He was disliked beyond belief over what we called the Roman backstab. Basically, Canadian troops thought they should have had the right to take Rome. We were ordered to stand still so the U.S. troops could do it. That's a bad way to piss off an ally, you know. It's a really bad way. Okay, we go on to Korea. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Second World War, I should mention Leo Major. You've got to look up Leo Major. The guy was an absolute legend in both the Second World War and the Korean War. He captured 2 cities on his own. Not too many soldiers have done that. Okay, admittedly they were small cities, but still. Yeah. Canada actually spent more time in combat during the 20th century than the United States did. And unlike the United States, we didn't back out. When the United States got hit with a car bomb in Lebanon, they basically chicken shitted all the way back home. When we ended up in a pitched battle on a peacekeeping mission, we stayed and won the battle. There's a difference in the way we think. I suspect most upper level U.S. commanders are aware of the way differences, but they may not understand them because, well, quite frankly, I'm not sure that we 100% understand them either. But they are huge. And finally, what should I close on about Canada? Well, Canadians are stubborn. Again, to survive here, you have to be stubborn. If you aren't stubborn, you aren't going to make it. So yeah, Canadians are stubborn. Push us, and you're going to get pushed back. As a matter of fact, push us, and you're likely to get double pushback because we don't like being pushed. Donald John Trump has pushed us in ways that nobody has in ages. The results are not going to be good. Effectively, he has proven to us that the United States is no longer a trustworthy ally, and it is probably going to take 50 or 60 years for them to regain the same level of respect they had. Remember Donald Trump saying, nobody respects us anymore? Oh, you're right, Donald. Nobody respects you anymore. Especially Canadians. As a matter of fact, your mentioning of Wayne Gretzky and calling him your friend just ruined Wayne Gretzky's reputation in Canada. We used to like Wayne. Oh well. People change. And when people change, we change our views on them. Anyway, have a good day, folks. I'll talk to you again soon. Sorry I haven't been around, but I've had a few issues with an idiot dog trying to kill me. He smashed me up a couple times good, which, yeah, well. It's what happens when the dog gets too energetic and you're standing on a patch of ice. Anyway, talk to you later. Bye-bye.